Welcome to this episode of Careers. This is Sarah Tran with our guest today, Dr. Margaret Loh.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Loh. I'm really looking forward to this episode, so let's just get started. First, can you tell us what college you attended and a brief overview of your work history since then?
I graduated from UCLA as a biology major, and I was pre-med. Afterwards, I attended medical school in Chicago, got accepted into radiology residency. Oh, actually, before that, I went to internship at UC Irvine, then radiology residency in the Silicon Valley, and then 1 year of fellowship in San Francisco in orthopedics. And then after the training, I guess I returned to my residency program to become a chief of orthopedic imaging in the teaching hospital. And then I did that for a little while. And then afterwards, I moved back down to my home in Southern California to do private practice radiology for 16 years. Now I am doing teleradiology and reading from home.
Thank you so much, Dr. Loh. We're going to move a little backwards. Where did you grow up and what was your childhood like?
I was born in Hong Kong. At the age of 6, my family and I immigrated to America and we lived in Southern California. Growing up, I was a latchkey kid. But back in the day, my family owned their own business. And when I had time, I would help out with the family business. We worked in my dad's shop on the weekends and in the summers. And that happened from middle school all the way to college. So, we always worked with our family, outside of school. But, I took my schooling very seriously. So I did do very well in grade school. And then, I got into college.
At school, did you always think you were going to go into the medical field, or did you ever consider other careers, or was it really just something you were in a place where you were exploring different interests at the time?
It's a very interesting thing. A lot of people they come to an epiphany and they figured out that medicine is what they want to do. But for me, it was just one of those things that just happened in my childhood. I used to work a lot with my father, and my father owned his own business. My dad basically sold art, and a lot of his clients, customers were doctors. And so my dad, not being a very educated man, he would always look up to the doctors because those guys were his customers and they made a lot of money, and he just really admired them for their profession and their status in life. And working for my dad, I became to really admire doctors. And so from early on, I just thought that's what I really want to be. It wasn't really that I even understood what a doctor did. It was just one of those things that just kind of learned to want to be one. It wasn't like an epiphany or anything like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When you were on your course to becoming a doctor, when was the point where you decided you were going to be a doctor? Was it like sometime in college, or were you thinking about it all the way through high school?
You know, um, it was one of those things where I always knew since I was like a little kid that that's what I wanted to do. So it was one of those things where I just had a singular goal in my life, and everything was done to get to that goal. So it was, went to high school I already knew that I was going to be pre-med, went to college already knowing that I was going to be a pre-med. And it was just one of those things where I was so driven. So it was like a no-brainer for me. It wasn't like I was struggling to decide one way or another. It was this or nothing. But I'm like just really grateful that everything worked out for me.
Yeah, and I remember you talked about helping with your parents' business, and a lot of clients were doctors. Besides this, did you have any other extracurriculars, or were there any other hints of interest that made you want to pursue being a doctor?
So like a lot of the extracurricular things that I did was in pursuit to be a doctor. Being an immigrant child in our family, they didn't really emphasize on extracurriculars. So I mean, I didn't really do anything outside of outside of trying to pursue my career. I mean, I did spend 2 years at UCLA doing cancer research in the immunology lab, and that was like really, really interesting. That was in the pursuit of going into medical school, and I really enjoyed the research, and it really did help, and it helped me get into medical school. So unfortunately, everything was a singular goal for me.
That sounds like it was a pretty good journey then. I feel like everything was pretty straightforward. You talked about growing up in an immigrant family. Being an immigrant or even like being a woman in the medical field, did you experience any challenges because of this? And if so, how'd you work around it?
The good thing about medicine is that there are so many Asian people in medicine. In certain, when I was growing up in elementary school, I was a minority. I was like the only Asian kid in my school. I grew up in Whittier, California, and in high school there weren't that many Asians in my school. But then, when you go to UCLA, like half of the people are Asian in UCLA. So it actually felt really great. And then when you go to medical school, there are so many classmates that are Asian. And so, it's like the educational process itself is like really great. Now, residency, there was some challenges in residency. I did remember one time there was a senior resident kind of mistreated me. I don't know why. I mean, it could be because I was an assertive Asian female, but like during internship, the way that a training doctor learns is to be in an experience, and when you get to do procedures, you get to practice, and that's how we learn. And I do remember one senior resident, he would, when a code blue happens, I mean, it's bad for the patient, but this is a great learning opportunity for an intern. He would send me out of the room, like, please run an errand. And so while my co-intern gets to do all the procedures. And, that was very insulting. I mean, I was a pretty confident training, I was a pretty confident doctor. So it could have like, me being an Asian female could have rubbed people the wrong way. And so I feel like it was some discrimination. But the good thing is, I did report this person to my program director, and he did get disciplined. He had to take anger management classes. Thank goodness it wasn't like too much. I think Asians are very well respected in our field. So I don't really experience too much of that. And especially in the field of radiology, it's probably the most equitable field out of all the specialties, where men and women get paid exactly the same. So I'm like very lucky to be in my field.
Yeah, coming from an Asian family myself, I think I can definitely relate to this. My parents, for example, my mom is an Asian woman in also a STEM field, and she's experienced similar challenges. It's something that unfortunately just exists, but it's definitely something that can be overcome, and we could still achieve our goals despite it. Let's get more
Yes.
into your career. So, Dr. Lowe, you're a radiologist.
Mhm.
So, for our audience, what is radiology and what specifically about it compelled you to choose a career in it?
A radiologist is a medical doctor that specializes in the interpretation of medical imaging, such as X-rays, CTs, MRIs, and ultrasounds. Basically, we're the interpretation of medical imaging. So when I started medical school, I had wanted to become an oncologist. I worked in the oncology laboratory, and I just thought oncology was so great because you're helping a lot of people in life and death situation. But as you go through medical school, you get to rotate through all the different departments, and you get to see and experience all the different medical specialties firsthand. So it wasn't long before I started leaning towards surgery, and then maybe ER, and there was just so much as many like wonderful careers to choose from. But what I did notice, throughout my rotations was that no matter which rotation I was in, my medical teams would always end up in the radiology department, and they would consult the radiologist for help when they run into problems with diagnosing a problem. So I just see that the radiologists are just so helpful to doctors of different specialties, and I thought that was like a really special role to be like the consultant for other doctors. What they call radiologists, they're the doctors doctors. I chose radiology because it is like the most academic of all the fields of medicine. Field of radiology is basically to master the human anatomy and to understand all the different things that can go wrong in all the different body parts. It's just such an important thing. Like almost every specialty will have to consult medical imaging now and again. And when doctors have problems diagnosing a patient, they consult a radiologist by sending their patients to get medical imaging. A radiologist is basically in the middle of everything. I find that very exciting, and I feel like it's very fun to be able to get my hands into like all sorts of different parts of medicine.
Is there any advice that you'd wish you'd known when you were pursuing the medical field? Like anything you've experienced that you wish you'd known before that you want to get to give to our audience?
I basically landed in medicine by it wasn't a very thoughtful decision of mine. It was one of those things that just fell on my lap because of the way I was raised. I mean, I'm just very, very fortunate to have a personality that allows me to be a doctor and to allow me to really enjoy my work. But medicine is not like it's not like rocket scientists. It's like it's if you work hard, you could become a doctor, but it's not for everybody. If you're thinking about going into medicine, just make sure that you love to help people and you really want to take care of people because medicine, it's a really long road. It's a lot of hard work in the training. And even after the training, when you graduated, it's a lot of hard work. Makes decent money, but there's a lot of jobs that make just as much money without all the training, without all the costs. I know some doctors that went into medicine because they want to make money, because they want prestige, but they don't really love taking care of people. What ends up happening is they either drop out of medicine or they're just miserable. I think that's just the most important message that I have for young people. If you're thinking about pursuing medicine, just make sure you really, really love taking care of patients and you want to help people. So that's my bit of advice.
I love the part where you talked about how doctors are going to be helping people all the time, and that even though doctors are going to work hard and there's a long journey, if you love to help people, it'll ease the burden a lot more.
Yeah, I definitely think it's super rewarding. And, I feel really good being a doctor. I feel good that I'm helping people. So it is a really enjoyable career.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. If you enjoyed it, share it with a friend and follow us on Instagram and wherever you get your podcasts. This is Sarah Tran, and I'll see you on the next episode of Careers.